The hungry thing in the woods. The fire had burned down to glowing embers, casting flickering shadows on the trees surrounding us. The air smelled of burnt wood and damp earth. My friends, Ryan, Sam, and I, had spent the night telling horror stories, laughing at each other's shaky voices, trying to outdo one another with eerie tales. But now silence pressed against the night. Only the distant sound of crickets and rustling leaves remained. I don't know what woke me. Maybe it was instinct, a primal awareness of something wrong. My body was stiff in my sleeping bag, but my ears picked up a noise, a wet, tearing sound, a crunch, a slow, deliberate chewing. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. My hands clenched the thin fabric of my sleeping bag. Something was eating. At first, I thought it was an animal, maybe a raccoon or a coyote, scavenging near our campsite, but the sound was not too close. It wasn't coming from the trees. It was coming from just outside the tent. The chewing stopped. Then a deep exhale, a low, rattling breath. Something was there. I felt the air grow thick, heavy, with the scent of iron, like raw meat left in the sun. My fingers trembled as I reached out in the dark, nudging Ryan, who lay beside me. "Ryan," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Wake up." He stirred, groggy. "What?" "Listen." We both held our breath. A moment passed, then a wet gulp, a noise, like something swallowing flesh. Ryan tensed. He heard it too. I turned to wake Sam, but before I could, Ryan's voice cut through the dark, low and uneasy. "Dude, you're sweating." I hadn't even realized it. My skin was clammy, my forehead damp. The air inside the tent suddenly felt too small, too hot. "I hear something eating," I whispered. Ryan sat up slowly. "What do you mean?" I pointed toward the tent flap where the fabric seemed to pulse slightly, as if something was just beyond it breathing. Sam stirred awake, rubbing his eyes. "What's going on?" "Shh." Ryan hushed him. "Something's out there." Sam blinked, listening. The chewing sound had stopped. The woods were completely silent now. No wind, no insects, just thick, waiting nothingness. Ryan swallowed. "We have to check." I didn't want to. Everything inside me screamed that we shouldn't, but Sam was already reaching for the zipper, his movements slow, cautious. The metallic sound of the zipper peeling open felt deafening in the stillness. The tent flap parted. Cold air rushed in. Ryan held up his flashlight and clicked it on. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing red, dark, wet red. The campfire embers barely glowed now, but beside them something huge is crouched. Its back was hunched, its limbs twisted and wrong. Its skin was the color of dried bark blending into the forest, but its muddy teeth, its mouth was pauses too large. Rows and rows of jagged yellowed fangs dripped with something thick and black. A shredded deer carcass lay in front of it. But it wasn't looking at the carcass. It was looking at us. The flashlight flickered. The thing twitched. Its jaw creaked open. And then it moved. Not ran. Not lunged. It was suddenly just closer. We screamed. Ryan dropped the flashlight. The beam spinning wildly as we scrambled backward, zipping the tent shut in pure terror. The breathing outside grew heavier, louder. It knew we were inside. I clamped my hand over my mouth, forcing myself not to sob. Sam gripped my wrist so tightly I thought my bones would snap. Then silence. For what felt like an eternity, we stayed frozen, waiting for the tent to rip open, for teeth to close around us. But the next sound we heard wasn't the creature. It was the sound of soft footsteps, not animal footsteps, human. They circled our tent, slow and deliberate. One step, then another, then another. Ryan mouthed a single word to me, barely moving his lips. "Run," and then, before I could prepare, something dragged a claw across the tent's fabric. The end.